I'm Helen Wiley, and I started coming here in 1957.
Jean Baird, and I came, but I don't remember when.
Don Summers, I came here in 1958, and I didn't have any children then because I wasn't married. When I was at Fort Lewis, the Lord blessed me because all our company from Fort Ord, we had training down at Fort Ord, we were supposed to go to Korea. We get to Fort Lewis, and the Army said, well, no, we need your MOSs, your job titles here at Fort Lewis, so we didn't have to go to Korea, which, as you all know, was a blessing from the Lord because we didn't have anything to do with that. And my friend who was a company clerk said, Don, you need to come down First Baptist and meet this young redhead lady from West Virginia. I said, oh, yeah, all right. So, long story short, he wanted me to come down and play softball, so I started playing softball. Then I met my wife, and as most of you that we know for a long time, that's the end of the story. Or was that the beginning of the story, whatever.
Charlotte Summers. I came here in 1952 because I came from West Virginia to live with an aunt and uncle that gave me the opportunity to start a new life. And they were attending here at the time.
My name is Willie Stewart. I came to this area in 1958 with the United States Army. Became a resident of Tacoma in 1960. Began my career here in education in 1960.
I'm Ken Olson. I've been connected with First Baptist since the early 1930s. Been in Tacoma for about 85 years.
I'm Ray Frederick, sometimes called down here Sugar Ray, but I've been with the church since 1923 when Mother brought me in her arms. We were down at the Music Box Theater while they were building the building. I've lived in Tacoma all my life.
My name is Paul Krilich. I started to come in First Baptist in the early 1950s.
I was a student nurse, and my background is Baptist, and so I came to this church because in 1948 because I knew some student nurses that came here, and I joined the church in 48. Yeah.
I was pretty young when I came here. I came here with my folks. They moved from another church that had a pastor that was not so good. So there was a group that came, a group of people that were strong Baptist, and this church was really booming right then. And I remember coming as a small boy, and I can't tell you what year it was.
Everything operated between 11th and Broadway, 11th and Pacific, 9th and Broadway, and 9th and Market here. Most of the activity was in this area, and to my recollection, when the Tacoma Mall was built, things began to move out, and so people moved out and businesses moved out. Any main shopping was down here. You could buy your vegetables at Proctor, you could buy your vegetables at 38th Street, Lincoln District, K Street. You could do that, but if you wanted clothes, if you wanted furniture, you wanted anything of that nature, it was either Roach Brothers, Schoenfels, Peoples, and
Woolworth.
And Woolworth, yeah, and Crest. So all that was down there, and Sears down there.
Sears too.
Yeah. J.C. Penney's.
Yeah, they were.
If you were doing business in downtown, any kind of business, you went downtown because that's where the hub was as far as transportation. You had to come downtown to transfer to Spanaway or Oakland or Point Defiance or whatever to get on the trolleys to go out to your neighborhoods. But you had to come downtown first. And then
The neighborhood was a busy downtown Tacoma at that time. there were 5 major department stores, and I remember there was meat markets and produce stands, and there was a lot of people around downtown Tacoma. It was really an active community at that time.
So there was a lot of people that passed the church door.
Well, it started with the Mother's Day Riot in 1965 or 66 with extensive fires and other things in the hilltop area. And out of that, you developed some very first. The first person to get elected to the city council, the first black police officer. You had a chance to get blacks for the first time to work at Sears and other places without being just in the warehouse. You had stores that were in the heart of the hilltop area that never employed anyone of color. They started employing people. You had open communications to come for the first time. So, and also what was happening in other parts of the country, TV brought that out. And so here we call it de facto segregation. There was open hostility. But it did change. And you had ministerial alliances for the first time talking to each other. You even had churches exchanging ministers on days to show that. Yeah. So, yes, it was a very positive thing. Some received it well, others didn't. The biggest struggle came in housing and apartments. For example, in 1960, every place I attempted to get a rental, they put up a sign, no vacancy. Or many times, and then I would drive back by 2 hours later, and there was a sign for vacancy. And I'm yet served my country, wore my uniform, defended the country, was an educated assistant. Also, and when you look at me, you're looking at the first person that made a decision to give a principalship to, or have an opportunity to become a principal. We had teachers for the first time to be in schools other than Lister in South Shan or McCarver in the Hilltop area. I know the family that was the first black family that was able to enroll at Wilson High School, as an example. So people here thought they were very righteous, but when in reality came of contact to contact, it was not there.
First Baptist had a real active youth group, we could call it that, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. I hear World War II they had one. That was before my time,
Yep,
but
they did.
later on, one time we had a work party on the roof here at First Baptist back in, like, that would be the early 60s, and 6 or 7 gentlemen that were on that work party were all members here with their wives now, but they all met their wives when they were in the service, and they married them, and, well, a lot of them are still here, some have passed away.
There was a lot of young people, young adults,
Young
actually.
adults, they were.
Because we were either college or nurses or servicemen. And we had a large fellowship that even Sunday nights we'd come to church, and then we would go to the home of someone in the church. And we would have our own worship time again. It was organized. And we would sing.
The deacons and the deaconess took seriously visitation, and they were assigned a certain portion of people that they were to visit, and they very religiously did this.
At that time, we could also stand outside at the front door and ask people to come in.
You know, invite people in.
Now there's not those type people walking by.
We had a lot of, like there were different age groups in Sunday school classes, and they always had parties. And we had, every Wednesday night, we had a family dinner, and then a Bible study or a speaker afterwards. And I remember when our girls were in school, they came directly from school to the church and for the dinner.
We used to have dinners, like I'm not sure how often, but it seemed like it maybe once a month. and everybody would know what was happening in the church. They'd go through all the different boards and get reports. People were happy to know what was happening and why it was happening. And some of the dinners were pretty elaborate, 200-300 people that were part of the church. And I've got some pictures of some of the dinners, all the people and all the tables just filled with people. And it was kind of a neat thing to see.
Lynn started a coffee, what was
In the alley.
it called? Yeah,
A coffee thing.
coffee house.
Coffee
Uh-huh.
house in the alley.
And that was an outreach in the community, as was the breakfast later in the 90s, 95 that began.
At that time, then, the elders of the church decided that the best mission that this church could do at that time was provide for affordable housing for seniors. So they decided to build and go to HUD, borrow money to build a low-income apartment building close to the church so that we could keep some of our senior members living close to the church and they could continue their membership in the church.
Everybody was real excited about it. And we all got involved in making decisions and volunteering our time to interview residents coming in and greeting them and in any way we could.
It really worked out to be a great mission for the church because it was local, it helped local people, it helped maintain membership in our church, and it gave many of the church members a provision to really volunteer and to help the residents at Harborview.
We'd met for lunch over there with people, we visited people, and there was numerous people from our church that got first choice for the apartments. And so there were a lot of members from our church. And actually the first manager was a member of our church, and the first secretary was a member of our church. And just a lot of volunteers that just gave time showing the apartments and just being there and greeting people.
And also they had Bible study going on. Jeannie Barrett spent many years there as a teacher and had Bible class going for a number of years. And we also used the church van and for outings for the residents. And a number of us drove the church van and took people on outings. Don Summers, especially, he was about the chief chauffeur there, I think, but quite a few other members drove too from time to time. But the church provided outings for the residents, and there were a lot of the members involved helping the residents out at that time.
We all, like Dora said, we were all involved in some part of it. Mm-hmm. And the main reason that most of us were for it is because it was an outreach. It was an outreach for our church, and it was wonderful to have that money that was not free, but it was cheap money to build a building. Mm-hmm. And we felt that it was a real asset to the city and to our church. Besides the people that we helped, all the people that really needed a place to live that was not overly priced, and so we were happy to help where we could and see the thing grow and see it go. And we had people like Paul and others from our church that were on the board, and we knew that they were doing what needed to be done. And so it was a great outreach, I think, and it still is.
This is the First Baptist has meant a lot to me because of all the years I've attended. As you know, we were married. Our 5 boys attended with us. Each Sunday morning, they were dressed in suits and ties and a couple hats. I still have the hats. But they would come to church and they had Sunday school. They were taught to bring their offering and put in a little envelope. So it taught them the giving part in church. But the church also gave me strength in being a mother and raising children and a family. Because you have to get strength from somewhere. And the Lord was very much a part of it. And it was a pleasure to come to church because you came on Sunday and what you heard from the Pope from the platform helped to carry you through all week in your life. And I still feel very strong to the church.
A couple things that Barbara and my wife already talked about were same influence on mine when I came here. I didn't know about Christ, I didn't know about Christianity, but the people here, emotional now, just like Barbara said, they made you feel warm, and they had something that I didn't have. And so after a while, then I came to the Lord and was baptized. But over the years, it's taught you how to serve other people.
Right.
And the important part is people. And you people know this too, that He puts certain people in your life for a certain reason. You know, those aren't, I don't call them happenstance or lucky. I call them God's leading, because why are we all here? Because we all love the Lord and we're doing a job here.
Anyhow, First Baptist gave me an opportunity to serve the Lord, and as
Amen.
Don said, to be a witness and testimony to other people, and to be a soul winner. I taught adults Sunday school class, as I said, for more years than anybody cares to remember. Had the ministry at Harbor View, sang in the choir. Ted and I did who knows what. We had a group of adults that we sort of all led around and worked through. Oh gosh, I was even on the board couple, 3, 4 times. And in all of that, the important thing was to give out that plan of salvation, that Jesus loves you.
Amen.
And if you confess with your mouth, you will be saved.
Yes.
And I had an opportunity in this building to work out that good purpose that God had for my life.
Because we're a downtown church, I think it's critical that this church has to extend their work outside the walls of this building. They have to serve this downtown community, because most of the churches back in the 60s and the 70s, the mainline churches all left the downtown area, all went out to the suburbs. We had a couple votes here, and we voted to stay downtown because we felt there was a real mission need in downtown Tacoma for a mainline church to serve this community. And that's been going on for 50 years now, and the need is as great today as it was, maybe even greater than it was 30 or 40 years ago. And this is one of the reasons, even though we moved out of Tacoma 33 years ago, we still maintain our membership here, because Doris and I feel there's a real need to have a Christian presence in downtown Tacoma and serve this downtown community.